Welcome to The Current. I'm Cindy Robinson. Today we look at women's issues on campus and around the country.
We'll start by looking at the word feminist. According to the dictionary, a feminist is an advocate for women's political, social, and economic equality. Most Americans support that, but only about a fifth of them consider themselves feminists.
The number of people identifying as feminists is higher for millennials, but still not a majority. I asked USC students how they feel about the big F word.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
Like, absolutely.
People are like, oh, feminists are crazy and they do all this crazy stuff, but I don't think that's what feminism is about as a whole. You just have some individuals who take it to an extreme, so I don't necessarily support the extreme stuff that I've seen or heard about happening, but in terms of equality, like, of course.
I'm a strong woman and encourage all women to be as strong as they can be and do everything they can to be treated as an equal. But I think that there definitely is a fine line with feminism. I think that a lot of things are taken a little bit too far.
I do believe that women should be equal to men, but I think that some of the things that I see some of the extreme feminists do, I don't necessarily agree with.
So what do you think? Are you a feminist? Tweet your thoughts to @AnnenbergMedia with the hashtag #TheCurrentSC.
One of the biggest issues facing women on college campuses is sexual assault. Annenberg Media reporter Sarah Hansen has more on the efforts made by USC to fight the problem.
The number of sexual assaults on college campuses is alarmingly high, especially at USC. Take Back the Night, hosted by the Women's Student Assembly and the Center for Women and Men, are hosting a series of workshops dedicated to sexual trauma healing, self-care, and sharing personal stories of survival.
Lady Gaga's Oscar night performance about sexual assault moved the audience to tears. Gaga was joined on stage by a group of sexual assault survivors. They included Paige Sawson, a USC student, who spoke about her experience with Annenberg Media's Scott Cook.
It was really incredible. I think that when all of us got the call, all the survivors, to participate in this, we were kind of hesitant because none of us had publicly, except for the 12 who had been featured in The Hunting Ground, the film that she and Diane Warren gifted their song to. I think nobody had really talked about it publicly. So it was difficult at first, but then honestly, we were met with so much support and it was such an empowering, awesome performance that I'm so glad that I got to be a part of it.
Last year, a national campus climate survey statistic was published, reporting that 29.7% of women were victims of sexual misconduct since attending the university. Out of the 21 schools surveyed, USC, along with the University of Michigan, reported the highest levels of sexual misconduct against undergraduate women. In response against misconduct, USC administration created a sexual assault task force.
In terms of being victims, for them it's just great to see that the school cares and the school wants to know how they can improve both response and the process and how it deals with survivors of sexual assault.
This week, the Center for Women and Men and the Women's Student Assembly are holding a series of workshops and programs to raise awareness about sexual violence and support survivors.
The biggest resource I would say is for students to call the Center for Women and Men. It's a 24/7 on-call line.
Survivors share powerful messages about their experience on t-shirts displayed across campus.
A lot of times survivors will sometimes suffer in silence and they feel that they're isolated or alone in their experience. And I think that's also a really transformative part of the Survivor Speak Out, is that people are able to sometimes tell their story for the first time, but also be able to hear other stories and know that they're not alone in this.
Kumar urges victims of sexual violence to seek the resources the Center for Women and Men offers. For Annenberg Media, I'm Sarah Hansen.
The race for the presidential nominations is heating up, and candidates are vying for the women's vote. Annenberg Media political reporter Allie Main joins us for more. Thanks for coming in, Allie.
Thank you for having me.
Both of the Democratic presidential candidates are appealing to women voters, and we want to take a closer look at how the leading candidates' platforms are making an impact in the polls. Both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders have specifically discussed the changes they would make for women if elected. Their ideas may seem similar, but both candidates do touch on a few slightly different issues. If elected, Clinton plans to pass the Paycheck Fairness Act, a bill she introduced as a senator which will help women achieve equal pay in the workplace. She also plans to fight for the paid family leave and combat violence against women, but her campaign website hasn't offered specific plans on either issue. Like Clinton, Sanders says if elected, he will sign the Paycheck Fairness Act. Sanders also says he will work to give parents 12 weeks of paid family leave after the birth of a child. And the Vermont senator has made a point that he will only nominate someone who supports Roe v. Wade as a Supreme Court justice. So, Allie, how do you think Clinton and Sanders are successfully appealing to women voters?
Well, I think with Hillary Clinton, although you said her plans weren't clearly outlined step by step on her website, I think she's coming at it, a lot of her plans, from the rhetoric of her being a woman. She's saying, stand with me because I'm a woman and I will take care of you and your needs as women. And for Bernie Sanders, I think a lot of his comes from the angle of him just kind of trying to appeal to the people who government might forget. And if women feel like they have been wronged by big government in the past, Bernie is trying to say that he can fix that.
Now, on Super Tuesday, we saw Hillary Clinton obviously have a little bit more success, as well as in the women voters, speaking in terms of generally, but again, specifically with the women. Bernie Sanders had 46% in Oklahoma to Hillary's 48%, even though Sanders won the state. And in some other states, like Virginia, Hillary took 70% of the women's votes. Why do you think Hillary's had so much success among women?
Well, the thing is with Hillary is that she has, in all age demographics except for 18 to 24, Hillary has been winning more of the female vote, but in that younger demographic, Bernie's actually winning more of the female vote. And I think the reason for that is these women in the older demographics really do support Hillary. I wouldn't say just because she's a woman, but they really appreciate the fact that a woman is in that position to maybe become president because, you know, maybe them and their careers had faced some issues in the past, kind of reaching those higher positions. But I think these much younger females who may be new voters, maybe new to the workplace, new to kind of adult life, are kind of more interested in the social issues that Bernie's talking about in general than just the fact that Hillary is a woman. So I think that might be where that divide is, and the reason why Hillary has a lot more women supporters, but Bernie is taking a lot of the younger women.
Now, on the other side, among the Republican frontrunners, Marco Rubio is really the only one that has expressed clear specifics about his plans for women's rights, speaking specifically about paid maternity leave. While Donald Trump and Ted Cruz haven't really specified much, why do you think that is, and which of the three do you think appeals most to women voters?
Well, I think that the thing with Rubio's paid family leave is it's a little bit different than both Hillary's and Bernie's because it's, from what I understand, it's a tax cut for companies that do offer family leave, but it's not like Hillary's and Bernie's kind of like a more mandated, all companies have to give women paid family leave. So it's a little bit different in that way. And I think the reason why he and the other candidates as well aren't really emphasizing these policies as much is just the simple fact that they don't think government should really play that role, so they're not really focusing on it as much.
This week, 11 more states have their primary races, so we'll see how candidates on both sides of the aisle do. Allie, thanks for coming on with us here at The Current.
Thank you for having me.
A comprehensive Annenberg study on diversity in entertainment found that Hollywood is overwhelmingly white, straight, and male. Annenberg media reporter Sam Burgum talked to female students at the School of Cinematic Arts about how they see their future in the industry.
In the film industry, yeah, men they're in like important positions and everything, and so they talk to each other and they give each other jobs, and it's like a network. And yes, there's a sisterhood and women are absolutely willing to support each other, but they don't have as much power.
That even though we're like extremely underrepresented, there's definitely a looming force in Hollywood that will hopefully topple the Hollywood Boys Club.
We have to, in our class, work on what we call the Vagabond Project, which is filmed at the Vagabond Inn, fairly close to campus. And we work in crews of 6. people could pitch to direct or to produce.
Yeah, so I'm producing this short for Vagabond that my roommate Megan wrote, which is really exciting. It feels pretty great. I mean, to be fair, like only 4 people like went up for the job.
2 girls pitched and maybe 3 or 4 guys pitched to direct, and both of the girls, myself and this other girl, started our pitches with like a self-deprecating joke. And the guys didn't start that way at all. They were all like, I've done this and this and this and this, and so you should definitely, and it's not like I don't have that experience and haven't done like a bunch of stuff. It's just that it feels like weird to just to have that kind of confidence.
I find that really hard to be able to like talk about why I'm so great and like list my strengths. This kid that I know in my class was really good at going up and just talking about his vision for the film and like why he should direct, and I sat there and was just like, give me some of your confidence. There's a definite question that went through my mind that was like, if I was a white male, would it be a lot easier to go up there and just like take over the room?
Guys will talk about like, oh, I've watched this movie from like 1949 and I can deconstruct it, and then you just feel like really threatened and insecure about your own knowledge. I had an experience last year where this guy was super confident and was just sort of, we weren't supposed to have a director in our team, but he sort of emerged as the director. Then once we were on set, he had like no idea what to do, and I had to take over from him, even though I was sort of like more quiet throughout the process, because he had like no idea what he was doing, but he had all the confidence like throughout the process.
I just have to like tell myself that I'm just as qualified and that I deserve whatever I'm out for. I mean, women are badass in general, like, and women in film are even more badass.
The school held a town hall meeting last month to discuss diversity in its hiring and curriculum.
There's always been pressure for women to look a certain way. Over the last few years, women in the African American community have started embracing their natural hair, a look that is not always accepted among society. Today, we're joined by a panel of professional women to discuss why Black women and their hair is such a big conversation. Ladies, thank you for joining us. Can I have you each introduce yourselves and let us know what you do?
I'm Essence Harden. I am a PhD student at UC Berkeley in the Department of African American Studies, and my dissertation is about Black masculinity and hairstyling practices.
My name is Lisa Pico-Hebert. I'm a professor here at Annenberg, and my research area is gender, body image, and the media.
My name is Jordan Holman. I'm a journalism student here, and I'm a senior.
And my name is Mickey Turner, and I'm a professor here at Annenberg, and I photograph people who have hair.
Okay, so Jordan, I want to start with you. Can you please explain what natural hair is for those that may not know exactly what that means, at least among the Black community?
Yeah, definitely. So for a Black woman, wearing your hair natural would mean washing it and not straightening it afterwards or manipulating it in any way with like chemicals or heat. And so for African American women, that means our hair is curly when we do that.
Okay, and Lisa, I want to ask you, just because I know you have maybe a little different take on what natural hair is, because I know you consider yourself natural.
Right. I think natural hair is anything that's just not chemically touched. So I have no chemicals in my hair, but I definitely flat iron my hair. So I consider it natural because it's all mine.
Okay. So as African American women in professional settings, do you feel the pressure to conform, and why? I'm going to start with Essence.
Yeah, no, because I'm a graduate student, and I think that my department in particular has a lot of people who are women who have their hair in a more natural like state. So it hasn't been any sort of issue, and my hair also is long, and I know that when I shaved my head, when I started my locks, that was a certain different space. I was also a teenager, but there are people in my department, for instance, who are women who have really short hair or bald heads, and when they go on the market, they always grow their hair out. And I think that's a really interesting idea, but me personally, because my hair has like reached a certain length below my shoulders, I haven't really felt the need or the pressure to do anything in particular with it.
Lisa, what about you?
Well, I think speaking as a broadcast journalism professor, there are certain ways that hair needs to look in this unfortunately in this society. I think we haven't gotten past, especially for African American women, we haven't gotten to the point where you see many women with dreadlocks or curly hair or outside of the standard bob sort of cut. So I think it depends on the type of career that you go into. In academia, we can do whatever we want when we're teaching it. But if you're going to be on air, in particular, you have to conform to societal standards.
Jordan, what about you?
I would definitely say there is pressure just because I'm coming from it as a student. Definitely in college it's less so, but just thinking about how I'm going to wear my hair for internships or how people are going to perceive me when I go on the job search, I feel like there is like the pressure that other people have talked about here on this panel, but I feel like that's changing. And it's also very regional sometimes, I feel.
And Mickey, what about you?
Well, ironically, I've got my two sisters here from Berkeley, and when I was at Berkeley doing a fellowship, I woke up one morning and shaved my head. But I've just never liked to do hair. So I cut it all off, and there was like this instant reaction that was just like, and I wore it like that for probably 10, 15 years. And the only reason I changed it over is because I kept getting stopped by police when I was driving because I think they thought I was a guy. So I said, I'm just gonna like do this lock thing because I don't like to do hair.
So do you feel that men, African-American men that have hair, do you think there's different standards for them as far as what is expected of how they do their hair? Are they allowed to, say, do dreadlocks and be on television, Lisa? Or, we have Jody Armour here, one of the professors. He wears a big afro and he does get a lot of attention here. Do you think it's a different standard for men?
To be honest with you, no. They may get away with a little bit more, but men still have to conform. You're not going to see a man come on with a full beard, right? I mean, that's sort of their hair space. So there are still, unfortunately, ways that men have to conform. If you're an athlete and you're doing play-by-play, yes, you can have that faux hawk. But if you really are going to work for ESPN, that's not going to work out very well for you.
And at my alma mater, Hampton, at the business school, they will not allow the men or anyone to wear dreadlocks, cornrows, or anything. Oh, wow. You can't even be in that school and have this type of natural hair. So that's the message they're sending out there, and I personally think that's wrong. But they're saying in the world of business, these people won't be accepted. So I've not worked in corporate America since the '80s, so I don't know if that's still the deal.
And that's a black school.
Yeah.
That's an HBCU sending out that message.
Yeah.
So you've both talked about a lot of what you've seen, like you said, that was in the '80s. Have you seen change since then, as far as how his hair is accepted?
Yeah, I don't think anybody looks twice at people with twists or dreadlocks or whatever they're doing these days, or this natural do that goes all over the place. I think it's become quite the norm now. If that gets you a job somewhere, I don't know. But I think it's been accepted mostly by the mainstream as it's just another hairdo.
So I'm pretty sure each of you have personal experiences that you've dealt with your hair. Jordan, I know you blogged about some of yours.
Yes.
We definitely want to hear your take on what you've gotten from dealing with your hair. Starting with Essence, have you ever dealt with anything that made you uncomfortable about your hair, or like something someone said in the work setting or in society, period?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Well, when I shaved my head, my mother cried when she saw me after not having hair anymore. And that was 2000, so it was a while ago, but I remember it because, it was pretty dramatic, her response. And when my hair was shorter and it was growing out, like locks, so it's a strange transition where your hair looks kind of funky and maybe jacked up, and you're not washing it all the time, so you look kind of drastic. And I think in those moments I felt really uncomfortable, so my hair was covered up mostly. I didn't really wear my hair out until maybe a few years ago, when my hair texture also doesn't lock that easily. So, the longer it got, the easier it became, but I think I had to get comfortable sort of with what my hair looked like. And it took a really long time because it's just, it's different layers. It looks crazy sometimes. It looks good. I don't like doing my hair also, so I will look like a ragamuffin all the time, except today, of course. So that those responses of when my hair looks really tightly twisted and fresh and clean, and I do think I experience a type of dissidence when my hair is a little more wild and free, actually like a dreadlock is supposed to be technically, right? Where you're not really doing much to your hair, you're just letting it kind of do its thing.
Right. Lisa, what about you?
You know, it's interesting because when I do, my hair is extremely curly. And when I wear it, what I consider non-flat ironed or blow dried, everyone says, "Oh my God, I love your hair," and then they want to touch it, and it's so curly, and why don't you wear it that way? And what I really don't, the reaction I don't like is the reaction I get from African Americans, because then they use what, you know, Chris Rock sort of brought out to the sphere of, "Oh my God, you have that good hair. Why don't you ever deal with it?" And I'm like, well, I don't. It makes me look young. It doesn't make me feel professional, and it's what I call my beach hair. It's my summer hair. I said, you know, I already have a problem as a woman feeling like I want to be taken seriously in the workplace. If I come in looking like Jordan, which is cute, as a professor, I just feel like people are going to not take me as seriously because I look very young. So I just don't like that whole whitening of the hair for me, because it then gives off a different connotation to people because of my hair texture.
Okay. Jordan, I know you wrote a blog about some experiences that you have had, especially specifically something in London.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I was in London spring semester when I studied abroad, and kind of echoing what everyone else said, taking care of our hair takes a lot of time. Like, you have to think about it and whatnot. I didn't want to have to do that abroad, so I wore my hair in braids when I first went over there. And then there comes a time you have to switch up your hairstyle, so I did that, and I washed my hair and wore it as an afro, just because that was the easiest thing. So then I went to class the next day after my professor having seen my hair in braids for 9 weeks, and she straight up just did not know me. She was like, "Who is this girl who's coming into my class more than midway through the semester?" And it was really awkward because she stopped the class just to ask who I was, and then when she finally realized it was my hair that kind of confused her, she was like, "Oh, well, your hair looks great." And so maybe hearing that story, people were like, "Oh, well, it turned out she liked your hair," but it was just very uncomfortable. I've been struggling with how to wear my hair, and just to make that a public conversation was just very uncomfortable. So just echoing off of changing your hairstyle is a very personal thing for African American women. It's very personal for me. And so when people kind of attribute personality traits or who you are based off of your hair, it's really difficult, because you're like, I'm not trying to make a statement. I'm just trying to do what's best for me and what's easiest for me.
It's very linked to your identity.
Yeah, very, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my thing was, I'm a swimmer and a diver.
Okay.
So I couldn't really have the perm hair all the time, because I wasn't working for a sister. I mean, I want to go in and look like this when I get out. I wish I took better care of my hair. I really do. I don't put anything on it. I rarely wash it. It's just, I get up and go. So there are probably things I could be doing. It probably could look a lot healthier than it looks now, but oh well.
I'll come over and help you, Mickey.
Well, bring that coconut oil.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining me today. It was great conversation. We can continue this conversation on uscannenbergmedia.com.
Despite the fact that more women than ever are studying science, technology, engineering, and math, they still lag behind men when it comes to careers in these fields. Annenberg Media reporter Stephanie Wu shows us how a local after-school program is inspiring girls to learn to code.
Julia Tong is only 10 years old, and already she is driving.
I really like the team, and I really enjoy going to the competitions.
She is in a robotic team that is made up of girls, young girls.
I love it. I love it.
It surely wasn't love at first sight.
I was very confused. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I'm just like, what is this? What is this numbers? But my mom, she took me here. She's like, there's this new robotics place, and I think you guys would like it. So we're like, okay, let's try it out.
Bing Zhang co-founded the robotic program with her husband after they retired from Boeing as aerospace engineers.
I'm a girl. I learned engineering and physics when I was young. It really is because at the time I was not discouraged, and then you go for what your interests are.
A 2015 American Association of University Women found that in the last couple of years, more women are going into biology and chemistry, but less are going into computer and engineering. but it doesn't mean that girls cannot do it.
A lot of girls are doing actually very well in this area. Whether you can learn it or not, it's really not depend on your gender.
Although researchers have yet to determine an optimal age to start, MIT learning research professor Mitchell Resnick says learning to code is similar to learning to write.
And we won the programming award. We're trying to qualify to states. If we do really good in all our competitions, and we'll eventually make it to world.
As John and Resnick suggest, everyone should learn how to code. For Annenberg Media, Stephanie Wu.
Thanks for watching The Current. We'll be back next week with a look at politics on campus and the California primaries.
Tell us which candidate you support and why at the hashtag TheCurrentSC.